look, I told you we'd end up coming back for a banger. I think we've actually managed to secure one, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, because it appears as though we're going to get Reason Gaming versus Luminous Charm in the Group A lower bracket. So we're getting ready to send teams home already. And one of these two teams, I hope it's not Reason, because they're a UK team. I'd rather not see them get home just yet. I'm sure Max will be happy about it, but Kin's fine with this one.
No, we've got Resolve. We've got Resolve in the bracket still.
Yeah,
Resolve
we've got a few. I'm saying I don't want to see any of them go home, though, mate. I want to see them strive.
It's going to happen, man. It's going to have to happen eventually.
Reason were in the finals of a recent tournament, and they played up against Singularity, got battered, but nonetheless, they got to the finals. Resolve have actually made it through to the quarterfinals of Group A, and Resolve is the team with It's Stuart on. If you guys know It's Stuart, he's a pretty popular Wild Rift streamer from the UK. Content creator for XL, even though he plays for a different team, but there you go. So that's his team. But I believe we're jumping into the Reason Gaming Luminous Charm game, and I do already believe that it is 0-1 to Luminous Gaming. So I think we're actually jumping into the second game of this series, where Luminous already have a win.
Yeah, we will be jumping into that one, but we need to... Ooh, is that... Don't think that's the right team roster card.
It's not. Don't worry about it. Ignore it. That's Dark Passage versus something else.
Yeah, that's fine. They're probably playing somewhere else right now. But Luminous Charm, they're up in the lead. And when we got that result in, and we got told about that, there was a few surprises from you two. You didn't expect Reason to be going down one map so early, right?
I'm going to yoink forward the point that Scandal just made, which is, one recent, 2-month-long tournament that we all actually covered, right? And they made it right to the finals. They were definitely, I would say, the rising star of the entire event. The Dark Horse actually made it right to the finals. And we were expecting them to, I would say, I would have really liked if they pushed Game Law to a Game 3. It was a 2-0. It was one of the hardest matchups coming into it, so not quite able to happen at the end. Here we go. We got the proper rosters coming into this one. But now you're looking at this matchup versus Luminous Charm. This should be a team that they should be able to take down in a Beer 3 matchup. But Luminous Charm taking the very first game, it is a big surprise. And you got Sanji here, which was one of the players that we did recognize here coming into it, Scoundrel. Actually on the team, and he could definitely bring some really good map control in the jungle position for his team, and it might be the reason why they won that first game of the series off against the likes of Reason Gaming.
So we're all familiar with Reason. As you said, we covered a tournament recently where Reason were involved. But what do we know about Luminous Charm? Are there any players that you can recognize from other teams, or any standouts we should be keeping an eye on?
As Max mentioned, Sanji's the guy that I recognize from Solo Queue specifically. Sanji's I've kind of seen play. In fact, actually one of our co-commentators, Desertu, who some of you might know, he played 3 games in a row yesterday, I believe on Sunday, and he camped Sanji's Baron lane and killed him every time.
Sweet. So... He was camping Sweet.
Oh yeah. So he was just like basically tilting him before Origin Series. That was his plan. Doesn't look like it's worked though, because he is 1-0 up against Reason right now. But yeah, Sanji's the guy that I recognize. I've also played with Pastu, I think, as well. But again, a lot of these players I'm not massively familiar with, but Sanji is the guy that I'm familiar with. In fact, I've played against him in solo queue a hell of a lot recently. He's got a pretty mean Lee Sin, so I'm expecting Lee Sin to be a relatively high priority for him.
I feel bad compared to Scandal. He's able to play against a lot of these guys in ranked, and I'm just a diamond player. You can spam Keck W in the chat. I get it. But
okay, right? Do you want to hear my route for success?
I get Elo boosted. Is that it?
Yeah. Play Garen until Master. Play Garen until Master tier. Then recruit either Joey, Skags, or Keys and play with them and support Joey. And then get I'm the Doom to play with you every single game, who's the rank 1 player on the server. It's easy. Like, I just don't know how anyone
doesn't everyone do it, huh? Why doesn't everyone just find all these really cool pro players and start getting themselves boosted? It's so easy, dude. What are you talking about?
To be fair, I'm being harsh to myself. I'm actually a relatively good support. I'm pretty decent. I think someone asked me the question, they were like, what elo do you think you really are? I think I'm probably like a good red master tier, like Splashing Ground master tier support. But yeah, that's my key to success.
Key to success. Play Garen to master, then get boosted by pro players. But anyway, Max, I've got to ask you then, like you said there already, that you're a bit of a diamond player, but Keck W in the chat is what's going to happen here. What's the reaction then to someone who's in Emerald? Because I'm not even at your level yet.
Hey, bro, you'll get this fine. I mean, I'm a support player, okay? I'm a support main, so I got there with my sweat and tear. Also, Jason did carry me a little bit. Thank you very much, Jason. I mean, Emerald's fine. You got to start somewhere, right? And I'm sure that you talked about it at the very start of the show. 370 teams did sign up in this one. I'm sure if you were Emerald, no, that's fine. There's no issues with that. You could potentially...
Emerald's, people are slating. Emerald's fine. Emerald's above average, mate. Above average. I think the average elo in Wild Rift is platinum. So you're technically above average, mate. So don't put
the only thing I'm above average in, mate, is great. Is I can just hold that over me. Yeah. Anyway, I never hit platinum PC version of League of Legends. So to hit Emerald was just like a massive bonus.
Just high five yourself. Good job.
Yeah. Wait, make sure it's on camera. Which one is it? This one?
Oh wait, no. I was going to slap Scoundrel. There you go.
Oh wait,
okay, we're done. No,
I'm just going to high five myself. Yeah. I don't even know what that was. Lads, I have no idea what you did.
I don't know.
All right, we had a massive tangent there. We spoke about ranks. We've padded the egos a little bit. Thanks for the boost, lads. Really appreciate it. But we know a little bit about Reason Gaming, so why don't we talk to the audience about what we expect to see from them? Couple of players and good performance. Like you said, they were a dark horse in this recent tournament that we covered. That national tournament within the UK. What about them? What about the team really led them to success here? What was their standout moments, their standout attributes?
When you talk about Reason Gaming, there's one player that really stands out to me, for me at least, when I've been looking on that prior tournament we covered just a few weeks ago now, is Jash. Jash, a German player, is extremely talented when it comes down to playing one champion, specifically in the Dragon Lane position, and that is mainly Tristana. Tristana is very popular now back in the Icon series, the Summer Cup that's currently unfolding. It's picked quite a bit up against the likes of, Ezreal, and also there's Kaisers. And I don't think a lot of these teams has experience with Tristana. Of course, they know how they play, but it might be a little bit harder to deal with it itself. So I think Jash here might be the reason why you see Reason Gaming actually go really far in this one. That is if you pick it. Of course, we'll check out in this pick and ban phase. But Tristana is definitely a champion that I'm hoping to see picked for Reason Gaming.
And remember, it is, of course, Luminosity Charm leading the series 1-0 at the moment. So this is the last potential match for Reason Gaming. If they lose this, they're out of this monthly cup altogether. It all comes down to one map in.
Yeah, okay, so at least in ban makes a hell of a lot of sense. Like, you're going up against Sanji, and I think that's one of his best champions. I think he's got a lot of Lee Sin experience. Tristana, there you mentioned it. Josh is not going to get his hands on Tristana here, so that will be banned away. Would not be surprised to see the final ban from Luminosity to be Garen, because Kapana is a big Garen player. I think, he's got a lot of Garen experience, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's not banned, it gets first picked. But it doesn't mean you can't ban Ziggs. So then Ziggs also comes into play in this game too.
Yeah, also with Ice currently, the jungler for Reason Gaming could play a little bit of Lee Sin back and forth, so it seems like the game plan is not towards that Lee Sin. Maybe they have something that they have preempted before actually coming into this second game of the series, because you got to keep in mind, there was the first game here that Reason Gaming did lose to Luminous Charm. Something happened over there, so these might be a response to what happened in that first game that we don't know about, and they're completely shifting their playstyle or the draft coming into it, which is why I've seen these more specific bans, especially the Tristana I'm thinking about. They might have struggled against it a little bit, but at the end, it was still really dominant, and they were able to win against it. That was the reason why they banned it away. But Reason Gaming, there you go. The first pick of this game for them is going to be the Camille, and that's going to go over to none other than Kapana, which has played it a pretty decent amount. He likes those tanks from time to time, but I would say Kapana on the Camille is definitely a big winning condition for them to go towards.
Yeah, we're going to see the Kazakhs locked in here.
Oh.
I'm assuming it's Camille jungle, just because I'm still expecting Kapana to want to crack out the Garen. But I know that with Ice does play some Camille in the jungle, so that would be my thought process. Kazakhs Galio early rotation here. Another pick that we see a lot of in Southeast Asia and over in the Icon series and the Summer Cup is the Galio prioritization. Like, they really prioritize Galio over a lot of the champions. So maybe that's bleeding into some of the European drafts a little bit. But the Gragas coming through, maybe Kapana's not going for Garen then. Maybe Kapana's actually going to go for the Gragas top. And I think if you're playing for, I think as Clamare says, Garen is, I think, strictly the strongest tank. But I think if you're playing for more team-wide utility, you're focusing more on a team environment, then Gragas offers more to a team in general. He has more of an instantaneous engage. He can make more plays happen. And I love that, when you see a Braum early on rotation, you just slap an enchanter down. Like, Braum is super weak into a lot of enchanters. I don't think Nami's like the optimal pick because, one of the biggest things that Braum has got against Nami is that you can just shield the wave. So when Nami uses the wave, you just block it, and then it kind of like stops it from going any further than the Braum. However, it's a very oppressive lane when combined with Varus, which makes it difficult for you to pick anything. This lane has got such short range compared to Nami Varus that, I think you're going to struggle.
I was actually just about to talk about this composition. Really big engage potential. Now you had to back it up for Reason Gaming with a ADC that can very easily follow up in those fights and get access to the backline. One of the few champions that can do that currently is going to be Kai'Sa. And they even paired it with a Wukong, so it seems like it's not going to be Jungle Camille. It will be Camille then into the...
Okay.
Wait, so it might be Camille. Oh, because they can flex so many champions here between the Gragas and the Camille. They can flex so well, so it's really hard to respond for the side of Luminous Charm, and they're going to close off with a Garen. You wanted to see it here. Scoundrel is going to be coming on throughout the very end. The Varus, if you watched Scoundrel till this video, you would know in competitive, Varus is really strong, really valuable in terms of poking potential, and also when it comes now. Okay, I'm seeing. Thank you very much, by the way, Scoundrel. He's making fun of me. Those frame freezes are really strong, but Varus really good in competitive. Not only for the poking potential and sieging potential that the champion offers, but also because of that chain of corruption. That if the follow-up is strong, it is really hard to deal with.
Absolutely. I think from a pure teamfight perspective, I'm favoring Reason right now. I think you've got a much stronger team fight here. It looks like it's going to be Gragas mid, actually. So we're going to see maybe a full AP Gragas, which gives you a lot more damage potential. It's a little better into the Galio as well. I think it's one of the best options you can pick into the Galio in the mid lane right now, especially if you're looking for a melee mid laner. So I think the team fight for Reason is actually pretty strong. I think you're relying very heavily on the Varus to carry your early team fights if you're Luminosity. But the laning phase is pretty strong from a Luminous Charm. So the laning phase is pretty strong from Luminous Charm, and you have plenty of ways to isolate targets for the Kha'Zix, which is a good way to kind of get that jungle pick rolling.
Yeah, especially talking about the Kha'Zix, right? I think it was patch 2.3 or 2.3, one of the two patches where they actually buffed up its passive now. It was its range for its isolation. It was reduced from 300 to 200. Of course, the map compared to the PC counterpart is a lot smaller, so you want to make sure that that kind of range is going to be a lot smaller and adapted to the map of Wild Rift, which now he actually found himself some really strong opportunities. If you are going for a 3-man gank early on, which we saw in our first series is pretty popular still in Europe, that Kha'Zix is going to do an insane amount of damage in those ganks. So I'm expecting Kha'Zix to be a really strong champion, but of course, Kha'Zix, you want him to get a good early to mid-game stage. If he falls behind, then he tends to get 1v1 pretty easily if he falls behind.
All right, you've done a fantastic job at setting the stage, lads. This is the last chance for Reason Gaming. One more game could decide whether they get to press forward or we're sending them home early for the month. But I'm going to go home now. I'm disappearing to the Shadow Realm. Bye-bye.
See you later, Trid. Hey, he's going to the Shadow Realm quite a lot today. You know what? I didn't know you could come back from that one that easily. But you know what?
He would be the ultimate antagonist in the Yu-Gi-Oh series. Like, he just pop out every 6.
Like,
you thought you got rid of me. One episode later, he's just back. There you go.
Interesting you did anime references. I thought that was going to be my job, but you're the first one to do it. Hey, you know what?
I watch the normie animes. I'm the normie anime watcher. So,
okay, I watched the dark stuff a little bit more. You know what? That's fine.
Well, we won't go there. But I grew up on like the normie stuff, like Dragon Ball. You know, so you know I do want to try and get into it more, but it's just a little difficult to find the time. You know, a little difficult to find the time. I did used to watch One Piece though, Max. I was a One Piece watcher, so you know, I'm hopefully getting a bit of respect. You know.
Yeah, respect with there now. It's respect plus. Okay, feeling like in GTA, but really good stuff. Okay, I've got some anime references coming out from Trid too. Hey, watch Jujutsu Kaisen, pretty damn good. Talking about Jujutsu Kaisen, the Camille's gonna be here. She's gonna get that domain expansion coming on through in this game. Camille, of course, you're not only looking at these kind of potential engages from the Ectic Ultimatum, but also that split pushing potential coming out. We saw it in the very first series of the day from Trovanova, and if they play towards that once again, they could be looking good. But here we go. We're going to be back on the Rift. I know it's been a hot minute. No, there's no double zigs. You're fine. You're safe. As we're going to have the Braum and a 4-man pack-up coming out from Reason. You have a Braum. I always like to see some early 4-man rotates when you have the Braum on your side.
I think Braum's just got such a strong level 1. Like, if you can look for very early level engages, very early level skirmishes with the Braum, you can definitely come on top of it. And yeah, they're looking for it. Very early invade onto the blue side with the Braum here. Oh, no. They're going to catch him out.
They're going to transform that Nami into sashimi, apparently, and you're going to become some sushi. As basic attacks are just way too good, and especially that's given over to the Kai'Sa Scoundrel. That's the best champion who could have been given that first kill to.
Yeah, love it. Love to see that from the Braum, like early aggression. Like, you can do this in competitive really nicely. He's got such a strong level 1. But look at this. Galio is coming through. He's got level 2. Kha'Zix rotating over. This might actually force Withice and Luki away. Oh, my word.
They don't want to get taunted by the Galio. That's a double flash that's going to be gone. But hey, you know what? You double flash, that's fine. You still get yourself the first blood, and you're just going to play passive, right? You know you have that flash that's not going to be up. You're just going to take it very slow. So still strong, very early strong game coming up from them. They want to make it back because let's not forget, it is 1-0 in favor of Luminous Charm. So if they take themselves this game, that's Reason out way earlier than what I initially expected.
Yeah, you know, Reason, as a team that, as he said, came in the finals of a UK and Nordics tournament recently. So kind of covered the northern side of Europe, and they came to the finals of that tournament. So they really kind of surpassed expectations. It is Camille Jungle, by the way. Kapana's actually running with the Wukong top, which is interesting because it is a pick that I think people have been trying to make work more and more recently. He has had a lot of buffs to the sustain on his first ability in against monsters. On the previous patch, they upped the sustain to 80% of the value that's listed versus minions. So they're trying to make Wukong lane more viable here. But Wukong lane has the same problem versus Garen that many other of the kind of more squishy, no sustain top laners, or well, actually he has no sustain now, but has the problem that a lot of the other top laners do is that you just can't out-trade a Garen. He silences you and then spins on you, and you really can't do anything about it. And that's, again, one of the problems that Wukong does have. But you can, with the extended range in your first ability, proc Grasp of the Undying really easily. So I'm expecting to just see Kapana, try and utilize that Grasp over and over again on cooldown, try and use that extended range to constantly proc it and start doing a bit of magic damage over to Garen and building up those HP stacks.
Yeah, I mean, as Clamara said, right, during the interview with Trid, Garen, too good, too tanky, too annoying of a champion to deal with, so it could be still a little bit complicated, but Kapana, with that buff you mentioned on the Golden Staff, can make matters a little bit easier to heal off of those minions to have a decent matchup in that position. I want to actually talk about this jungle pathing coming on through, especially from the Kazakhs that I found very interested. He went a little bit deeper, went towards the jungle camps, the one on the bottom side of the map was the jungle of Reason Gaming. I thought it was an interesting one, but if you try to initiate a kind of gank on Braum and also on the Kai'Sa, I don't really see the value of that because you are not going to be having that isolation buff coming on through. He was maybe expecting to have a nice little bit of synergy with the likes of Lewin on the Chain of Corruption, but if I'm a Kazakhs, and tell me if you agree there on Xcandrel, I would always prefer to prioritize a lane where it's only one enemy champion, such as Baron lane or mid, to always get that isolation buff perk available anytime.
I think the ganking path is kind of like a secondary point here. I think he was mainly just looking for the invade onto the Krugs.
Yeah.
What I found interesting about that, though, is that he didn't have any priority bot lane. Like, he was doing it with almost no priority bot lane. It was, I think, actually a relatively risky invade to do, but the vision just wasn't there for reasons, so he got away with it. I do agree with you, though. I think Kazakhs is stronger when looking for a gank into the solo lanes. You often see a lot of Kazakhs prioritize either a Baron lane or a mid lane gank early on, because it's much easier to get that excess damage off and get the quick cooldowns on your first ability. But yeah, the bot lane you can still definitely go for the gank. Like, you can still definitely look for those plays. You don't need the isolation bonus to get the kills. You can still do damage coming out of, your passive allows you to do damage coming from an unseen location. So, you can still get that extra bonus damage off versus someone.
Yeah, that could work out just fine. Though, here you go, a little bit more vision with the Scuttle being controlled in favor of Reason Gaming. Though, instant collapse into the mid lane position. Galio not looking too comfortable. It's going to be Azazrael, going to have to move out of that position. Of course, the dash will allow him to do just that. Teams now going to try and rotate. Once again, a big push happening both mid and the bottom side to try and regroup a little bit and avoid getting sandwiched away. That's going to be the engaged Hectic Ultimatum on a really valuable target here. Kazakhs can't flash away. Chain of Corruption completely misses and goes wide for Lewin. And now suddenly Ultimate's being wasted. Tidal Wave, a little bit of extra CC knock-up timer. Same for the Wukong, but Kapana went a little bit too far, bit down more than he can actually chew, and will be the first to lose his life in this fight. Now it's time to re-engage for the side of Luminous Charm, as there's going to be some nice damage. Good silence coming out from Shensho. Unfortunately, not going to be enough in the grand scheme of things. And Reason, they had a good initiation. I liked it, but seemed like especially Kapana went a little bit too aggressive at the end.
Honestly, there was actually a win for Reason. Like, it didn't look like it, but they actually came out with man advantage from the end of that fight. I think it should have been worse for Reason, honestly. I agree with you. Kapana went a little bit too aggressive here. I think overstepped the mark a little. But at the end of the day, Reason do actually come out ahead. And oh my word. Oh, no. Yeah, they should have backed a long time ago here. I really think they overstayed their welcome on that bot side of the map. And now they have given a potential chance for the Drake. Although I say that with Ice is quite low, so he's going to have to be careful. I don't think they're going to be able to go for it as easily as they'd like.
He also doesn't have the Hectic Ultimatum. Every single ultimate is currently on cooldown, except for Lewin. Has currently got that Chain of Corruption ready to go any single time when he wants to. I don't think he's going to use it just now, so he'll try and keep it potentially for the Herald fight, though. That's the engage. Galio going to try and get himself the taunt, connects just fine, and that's going to be with Ice, as you said, Xcandrel already pretty low. That's not going to be making matters easy for Reason Gaming. And same for Leaky Pop. He's going to be just way too deep at that one. They get himself the Drake, but lose 2 players. We'll see if they can convert it and maybe a little bit more for the side of Luminous Charm.
I never really love when teams kind of sacrifice themselves for what I consider like the weaker Drakes.
It's not worth it, yeah.
Ocean doesn't really feel like a Drake that's worth massively sacrificing yourself for. Now, look, it really depends on what this gets converted into. That is a huge chunk of Sanji's HP, but it really depends what this gets converted into. If you can't convert this into anything meaningful, you end up losing the Rift Herald, then absolutely worth. And it looks like that's the case. Let's take a look at the replay here. That's the fight. Okay. Sanji buys some time. Galio kind of saves the day. Look, if that Chains of Corruption had hit, this is an easy win for Luminous. Like, they win this fight 10 times out of 10. But the Chains of the Corruption just goes absolutely wrong. And then the Wukong ultimate, as you said, Kapana isolates himself. I really thought the flank from Garen was poorly executed, actually. This could have gone much further in favor of Luminous. And this is that pick-off just after as well.
Yeah, especially the Garen you talk about it. If there was a collapse coming out from the entirety of Reason, it could have got an even easier man advantage off the back of that, I think, not even having to take down the Kha'Zix. But it was a nice attempt. I appreciate the effort coming on through. As you have a replay of what happened just a few seconds ago, and apparently maybe a kill or a few came on through off the back of that one. But Lewin is starting to stack up some really big damage. Those arrows are doing a huge amount of work. Luckily enough, you have the Braum that with that Unbreakable, he's going to be your tanky front line to assist you if possible. And I think that having that Braum on that side is definitely going to be helping you a tremendous amount. The top side, that's the fight that was going to be breaking on through. Sensio going to try and spin to win that fight versus the Gragas. But unfortunately, thanks to Gragas' passive, he can just out-heal it just fine. Every single ability it pops. So he's going to be completely fine in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, the damage from two key sources is ramping up right now for Luminous. Yeah. The first one is the Sanji. Sanji's got the Duskblade Attractor.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, he's going to, like, bop here, though. That was a really nice save by Lukey Pop. That was such a nice save. I would have loved that gold to go over to Josh. You really didn't need to take it as the Braum, but that was a huge save from him. That's one of the things that unfortunately it makes Braum really good versus assassins. Like, Braum is very, very good at locking down these individual assassins. He can protect his carry. One thing that a lot of people don't really realize about Braum is that actually he blocks damage from any direction, not just projectiles. He can block the first projectile with his shield, but then he actually looks like I think Camille's going to go. Yeah, with Ice a little bit too aggro there, but Braum can actually block any directional damage, which includes melee hits and abilities. So he can block all the damage coming in from the Kha'Zix onto the Kai'Sa there, and they're able to sort of lock him down with the Braum passive, which is absolutely nutty broken, by the way. The Braum passive is disgusting. So yeah, I think, you know, that's why I really love Braum into assassin picks. He's very good at, like, locking down individual targets.
Yeah, they even tried to nerf it just a few updates ago. I think it was patch 2.3 where they nerfed it by, I think it was quarter of the CC, but really the damage is still so good and the stun is still so strong itself, though. Mid lane, that's going to be Glacial Fisher trying to pop it away. Azrael taking quite a severe amount of damage, but he's able to give it back to Reason Gaming in due time, as we're about to hit the 9-minute mark, though. And this is a very, very close game, I have to say here. Scoundrel seem like we have seen Reason Gaming being able to learn a little bit more from their very first match versus Luminous Gaming, as things are going to get a little bit more interesting as we go on, as Imperium, I don't know, I'm thinking of another cast I work with. Scoundrel, one of the big fights we're going to have coming on through very, very soon is going to be that Infernal Drake here. Normally is going to be a Clown Fiesta in that position when it's going to spawn in now, just 20 seconds. Every single player on the Rift is currently going for their back, for their resets, to get some items, to have a potentially proper 5-on-5, as the Herald's going to be popped as a distraction into the bottom lane.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to set up. You know, that's going to take the tower and it's going to start to push towards the tier 2. So you're going to create some natural pressure for Luminous Charm to have to deal with as Reason now start the setup on the Infernal Drake. This is where the value of a Rift Herald really pays dividends, because you're eventually going to have to react to that if you are Luminous. But because the Infernal Drake is such high priority, as soon as you go and react to that, it's going to allow Reason to step up and start this Infernal. So it's just a really, really nice play from Reason to create some natural priority in a lane that is eventually going to have to be dealt with. But it looks like they are valuing that Infernal highly over anything else.
That's the explosive cast. They're going to have a few players actually low right off the bat into the Cyclone of the Wukong. That's going to be exactly what you're hoping to see. Going to be a little bit wide, especially on the ultimate. Loki Pop going to have to try and move away from that position, but doing still a tremendous amount of work at the very end of that engage. Sanji and also Azrael will be taken down and shut down at the end of that fight, and that's going to be the ace in favor of Reason, not losing a single player here, Scoundrel.
Oh no! I mean, that Gragas barrel was so good. It was so good. Michele. Like absolutely nutty Gragas barrel, because that essentially separated out the fight. It threw Luminous Charm into absolute chaos, and look at this. It's Shelly paying dividends. Sorry, we call the Rift Herald Shelly in League PC. I'm translating this over to Wild Rift. No one can stop me. But the Rift Herald pays dividends with the drop in the bot lane. Yeah, okay, you lose Infernal, but you get a clean ace, you get mid lane tier 1, you get bot lane tier 2, and the inhibitor tower. That is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
Disgusting. I don't know. The accent comes from somewhere man, on that one for sure. But it was such a good execution. Michele, especially that explosive cask, is literally a game-changing ability if used properly. And in that sense, they got direct access to a few of the backline champions, right? And you just can't escape from that one. Did You Miss Me was definitely in a really bad spot. And I don't think he was missed at all in that fight because he just didn't have time to do almost anything in that skirmish. We're hoping to see some big changes.
I think With Ice stunned him out of the ultimate cast. Or at least maybe Braum blocked it right in front of the Nami, because I saw Did You Miss Me try to cast the wave and it just didn't go anywhere.
I think stunned.
Yeah, I think he might have got stunned during the animation. Either that, or we saw Luki Pop just block it instantaneously. But either way, like some of these big impact ultimates, and also because you split the fight up, like as Razel wasn't able to get a huge taunt off, like he was split, couldn't get a multi-man taunt. Really, really good stuff, and they're going to catch out Sanji here.
Explosive cast this time around, not going to be as impactful as you might hope, but they got himself the passive. Sanji does not want to take 3 more basic attacks, otherwise it might be the end tidal wave. Secured himself an extra life. Sanji will be able to move away from that spot just fine. That's why the Nami has been so good in the current landscape. The peeling she offers is just nutty when played properly.
Yeah, but it was the Nami ultimate for what was a very sort of low risk engage coming out from Reason, right? It's a low cooldown ultimate. You're not going to be too bothered about just using it, but
yeah,
you had to use it or you were dead, potentially losing another set of towers as well, potentially losing the Baron. So it was great to disengage, but it was a Nami ultimate to not lose. And at this stage of the game, you're 10k gold behind. Luminous, you're playing to not lose. I don't think you scale here. You definitely don't scale. So like, what item spikes can you play off right now if you're Luminous? Like you have a certain item spike that you have to play around. It looks like they're gonna catch Sanji out.
I mean, see you later, mate. You got nothing to do in these lands. Instant a kill coming on through. Sanji just gets completely blown into smithereens. And they're going to get some decent poke on the other side, but there's nothing you can do here. Reason are in clear control. And this is the part of Reason Gaming that I enjoyed so much back in the Northern European, should I say, tournament that was happening just recently, is that they create a lead from one single fight and then they take the game. They are very clearly a team that when they have a lead, they play around it extremely well and they just keep harassing their opponents, get themselves more objectives, forcing or even threatening objectives to force fights to come their way. And this is why they're looking so comfortable. They built a lead in the matter of minutes. They were 6-6 with 0 goal lead advantage, and now they got themselves an extra 6 kills on top of Luminous. And they're just looking in such a good controlling position, and the vision is just missing. Very clearly here, Scandal for Luminous Charm, that if they go anywhere into their very own jungle even, and they might just get clapped, especially thanks to Lucky Pop always being present in those fights.
Like I said, from what we've seen from Reason right now, I think their team fights are actually really, really strong. Like, you can split the team fight up with Mikhail, like we saw previously. Mikhail is just able to just like jump in and split the team fight up. You have Kapana with a very strong knock-up with the Black Cleaver build on the Wukong, shredding armor for both With Ice and Jash to kind of pop off. And then you have so much mobility from With Ice and Jash. You're able to just isolate a target, take them out of the fight instantaneously. And once you lose Lewin, once Lewin goes down, that's your team fight donezo. I mean, because Sanji's, like, we know Kha'Zix, he's useless in team fights. Like, Kha'Zix is not a team fight pick. He's used for smaller skirmishes. It looks like they are just individually picking off people in the blue side jungle here. I'm not really sure what Luminous Charm can do.
Did they close it? I mean, they got himself already the Inhib Tower early into the bottom side, though. Top side is a 2v2 skirmish currently unfolding. Oh, no, actually, no. I got baited by the fake monkey. But you know what? It was a 1v2. Not going to quite go in the favor of Kapana. And Nastily wasn't able to get it for himself. But they got another kill into the mid lane position. And Reason are just taking straight control of the Baron pit. And that's going to be really hard to contest.
Yeah, I don't really think you can do anything about it.
You just can't,
The best option you're going to have is like trying to go for like an absolutely crazy arrow steal from Lewin. But at the end of the day, they've got a big wave, that natural pressure that's being picked up by the Rift Herald take of that inhibitor tower very early on into the game. That's the worst inhibitor tower to lose as well. If you lose the inhibitor tower that is furthest away from the Baron pit, you are constantly fighting a rising tide of pressure on that side lane that is going to have to really put pressure on you around the Baron, because if you're having that lane pushed in and it's the furthest away from the Baron pit, you have to respond to it, and unless you've got teleport, you have to walk a very long way to be able to respond to any Baron pressure. So that was like the perfect lane to get the tower in early on here for Reason. And honestly, as I said, the scaling is massively in favor of Reason Gaming. I don't see a good way for Luminous to get back into this.
Yeah, I mean, one Inhib Tower, a 10k goal lead. Very rarely will you see this actually turn into a comeback, unless you're in my solo queue games, then probably because you'll have some bad teammates. But in this case, this is not at all the scenario at hand. Body Slam going to be missing from Michele, as Sanji could very easily move out of those kind of sticky situations without too much of an issue. There you go. Continuous attempt at a split push though coming out from Sensho, but hey, Garen not going to be doing too good, and he might lose another inhib tower because of him not being present. Galio going to be picked up instantaneously by Jash. Hectic Ultimatum on a really valuable target. That's the very stand, and you said it, Scandal. The moment Lewin goes down, your damage is basically nullified to nothing. And now they get themselves another inhib tower into the mid lane position. If they get the top lane one, it's just going to be GG. It's just a matter of when. And there you go, 3 inhib towers, increasing the gold lead even more for Reason Gaming. And I think they're feeling so confident. They want to close off the game. They want to make this series go to a Game 3 on the broadcast of the Origin series. Sanji will die in his very own fountain. You're not escaping from that one, homie. And they're going to put the focus down onto the Nexus. And that's game number 2 of this matchup versus Luminous Charm going over to Reason Gaming.
Yeah, Reason played that really nicely. Again, beautiful play with the Rift Herald around that Infernal Drake. Like, who cares if you lose the Drake, if you take an inhibitor tower that early on into the game and get a clean ace on the team? That was just so well orchestrated. The drop in the bot lane of the Rift Herald paid dividends, and Mikkel, your Gragas barrels, chef's kiss, legit chef's kiss on the Gragas barrels there, because that split the team fight up and made it so difficult for Luminous Gaming to play the fight that they wanted.
Yeah, and especially you talked about how important synergy and communication is. You saw instantly that explosive cast came on through, put 3 players in jeopardy for Luminous Charm, and the follow-up, it was instantaneous coming out from them. So I really enjoyed how they played it. The strategies and how they played the game in general was really strong, and the team synergy when you play in a 5v5 mode, but that's where you won, and they played around that one extremely, extremely well. But that's going to be it for our second game of this series. Still got one more to go between Luminous Charm and Reason Gaming, so we'll have the check onto that game right after this very short break.
Welcome back to the Origin series. We just saw Reason Gaming begin their comeback. I know it's only 3 maps, but they're starting the reverse sweep. We've got to call it as it is. And Luminous Charm not really having much leg to stand on there. 3 inhibs down, Nexus turret. You're kind of just waiting for the game to end at that point, Kiernan.
Yeah, as I said, like getting an inhibitor tower that early on into the game, especially the one that's the furthest away from the Baron pit, is a bit of a death sentence. And Reason played that super nicely. Their team fights were really strong. I did kind of call it in draft. I thought they actually had the better team fight comp. I think Kha'Zix is not a good competitive jungle pick because he's so easily shut down in team fight situations. Great in solo queue because people kind of run it down individually and you kind of get a lot of skirmishes and a lot of people getting caught out. In competitive, you get less catches, less picks, and that's where Kha'Zix kind of shines. So I really don't rate Kha'Zix as a super high competitive jungle pick. And you saw there, like, I can't name one team fight where Kha'Zix was able, especially past that Infernal Drake, where Kha'Zix was able to do anything. He just kind of got shut down by the Braum, shut down by the CC every single time.
Yeah, I can tell you none. No fights he had was really impactful for him, unfortunately. He is a champion. Normally, Kha'Zix, if he is in your games, you want to try and build an early lead thanks to him, and typically you want to try and get those kills over to the rest of your team. Didn't happen that time around. He tried and get himself a few of the kills himself, and it didn't work out at the end. So it seemed like, no, that first game definitely, even though it did not go over to Reason Gaming for the first one, seemed like they came in this second game with a plan, and now is the time to Luminous Charm to try and find their response coming into that third game, because let's not forget, it's BO3. They're currently onto the lower side of the bracket. Whichever team loses this next game, they're done, and it's just day 1.
So I just want to point out as well, because Kha'Zix, when they were released, wasn't exactly the best of champions. I know there's been some slight changes to him. Is Kha'Zix really the most competitive jungler that could be being run right now?
No, Kha'Zix is not competitive. No, there is loads of junglers that are better than Kha'Zix. He's strong, don't get me wrong. He's strong, don't get me wrong, but there is definitely Kha'Zix definitely got some strong potential. You can snowball games really easily as Kha'Zix in the jungle, but you know, versus competitive teams who generally don't get as caught out on the map as easily. You tend to see a lot more team fights rather than scrappy skirmishes. That's where Kha'Zix kind of sucks because he can't really find good isolation opportunities, and that's where he really shines. So like the jungle, like the picks in the jungle that I think are really strong right now are Lee Sin, like Camille competitively, Wukong competitively. I really like Vi, Jarvan. These are all like just good, solid team fight champions. And this is it, like Sanji. This is the team fight that actually went okay because, you know, Capano isolated himself in, like, he jumps over the wall and isolates himself, which makes him easy to take out. So this is a team fight where, even though Reason ended up coming out on top, it wasn't a particularly convincing team fight in their favor. It was the team fight that was around the Infernal Dragon that really showed exactly what happened. I think we'll have, we'll be seeing it. I mean, this is a catch onto the Camille, just a little, with Ice just looking for a tower dive in the mid lane tier 1, and unfortunately just messed it up.
Yeah, and used a Hectic Ultimatum too. That was weird. But actually talked about the Braum here. He actually did already use his Unbreakable really early on, so the Nami just got CC out of that one. And the direct access to the backline, it just set it up so cleanly and nicely for the entirety of Reason Gaming. And then they just tried to pick a few fleeing enemies here, left, right, and center. And they even got himself the Galio a few seconds after. So that was the ace very early on. And as you said, off the back of that, they also get himself access to the second bottom lane tower, get himself the inhib, and get the Infernal Drake too. That fight was everything for Reason Gaming, starting to build a lead from literally nothing in that point. And then Cabana, that was this small little, what I thought was a 2v2, but I got baited by the fake monkey, but it was still an attempt and a half. But the team got himself the inhib towers during that fight in the top side, so they still got some really big wins coming their way. And Reason Gaming, this is the time where they were trying to put the nail in the coffin, got every single inhib tower, trying to focus and take down the game, because they knew if they go for a throw, they're basically out of the entirety of the Origin series, and they were feeling already aggressive. So there you go, focus on the Nexus, pick up a few kills along the way, and make it 1-1 in a series to initiate the reverse sweep.
There's no way you throw at that point, though. You're so far ahead. Like,
I've seen worse, okay?
I've only ever seen a few, and that was solo queue. I mean, in competitive, if you're throwing at that stage, like, oh my word. But look, I think at the end of the day, it was a very clean performance. That Infernal Dragon fight was. Nami did get her ultimate off, by the way, but it did hit the Braum shield about halfway through, so it didn't get the full effect. But there was the Gragas barrel that separated everyone out, and because that separates the enemy team out, but doesn't separate you out clearly. Kha'Zix was like, where do I go from here? Like, you had 2 people that were isolated in the river, 3 people that were pushed into the blue side jungle, and that made it very easily for this like moving death ball that was Reason at this point to just walk through and just bop people with the Kai'Sa.
All right, that puts a nice little bow on game number 2. We're going to go into game number 3, though, because we're going the distance in this series for the first time on the Origin series. Game 3 was an interesting prospect. We were looking at a very surprising scoreline when we jumped into this series, seeing Reason playing from a position of weakness. They've now leveled the playing field, and they're going to solve it all on game number 3. Reason definitely in the driving seat this series, so I'm going to be looking towards Luminous Charm to make some adaptations. Max, what do Luminous need to bring into this next game to win out the series?
Luminous, of course, I think that in terms of draft, it was a good initiative. And mainly thinking back to the bans, I think that was really strong. But it's how they try and set up flanks. And I especially think back to the Garen. It was a really weird one at one point. They took himself a fight, got initiated upon. And one of the great things the Reason Gaming do is if they see a mistake or one player out of position, they're going to capitalize on opportunity and they're going to win the fight off the back of that mistake. Find out the mistakes. That's what I'm mainly going to say. I know it's something very easy to say, but if you have one player out of position, that's something the Reason Gaming is very quickly going to capitalize upon. So I'm mainly thinking at the Baron laner here for Luminous Charm is to make sure to not be out of position. If so, then you know that you're going to get instantly initiated upon, and most of the time, that's not going to go your way.
Yeah, I think the Garen flank was a bit awkward at the first strike. I think it could have had way more value than it got. And so I think that was just a little bit poorly executed from Luminous. Good recovery from Reason in that fight, realistically, but I think it could have gone much further south if Garen had actually used his ultimate properly. He didn't need to blow it that early. He had such a good flank. He could have just come in and spun on people's heads for a bit, and then what looked for a better opportunity for the ultimate. But regardless, I think they clearly won a game in this series. They clearly know how to beat Reason, and we're going into that final game where everything counts.
There you go. That's going to be the Kai'Sa taken away. I do respect it. Luminous Charm here going to be back onto the blue side. So getting rid of that, it was such a dominant performance coming out from Jash. Though I still want to see the Tristana. Okay, they call me the Jinx caster. You know what? That's why. Tristana going to be banned away the moment I mention it. Feels a bad man indeed. And Lee Sin, I mean, it's an expected ban coming into the jungle position. Though I'm not expecting a Kha'Zix. We touched upon that a few times now, why maybe you do not want to see the Kha'Zix coming on through. So I'm hoping that's not going to be a pick coming later on by Luminous Charm and the Astro to try to wrap up those 4 bans for both of these teams. Yeah, okay, I'm okay with that one so far, though a lot of ADCs currently being taken out of the picture, and I'm thinking back, one champions I would love to see picked actually in the Dragon lane would be Ezreal, if possible. But there you go. You've been talking about this one a lot on the Ziggs, and he's going to be the first pick for Luminous.
Yeah, we haven't seen much Ezreal. I do agree with you. I expected to see more of him, actually. He's a very high-tier AD carry right now. But the Ziggs coming through as a first pick, they mean business here in Game 3. Like, they're just going for the tried and tested competitive S-tier stuff. And that's a very solid and pretty usual first pick blue side if it's not banned away. But Kapana is like, okay, nope, going back to what works for me, going back to my Garen. He's going to lock that in. And we're also going to see the Camille come through too. So there are good ways to deal with Ziggs. One of them is Camille. You keep Ziggs locked into that Hextech ultimatum. He can't bounce out with his Hextech satchel charge. And then obviously you have the execute potential with Garen. So there are some good options here. I think this is a relatively solid early draft into a Ziggs pick. But the Gragas is the obvious response in the top lane here versus the Garen. We see it quite a lot. This is like the tank versus tank matchup that kind of dominates the meta right now. And I'm not sold. I'm not sold on the Kha'Zix. I just don't think it's a particularly strong competitive jungler just because you need to snowball it. And I think any jungler that relies purely on snowballing is a risky jungler to pick. And especially versus the team that is going to clearly play very grouped up team fights with a Camille and a Garen. Now you're bringing in the Ashe as well for extra control and extra engage. A little worried about the Kha'Zix pick, honestly.
I was going to say maybe an Ashe support. Oh, okay, they got himself the Lulu. I was going to say maybe Black Cleaver could have been a thing, but no, that's something that I haven't seen played in a long while. Also, it's going to be Lulu with the Ashe also, so that's going to be CC for days coming into that Dragon Lane matchup. Not too much mobility coming out from those two, so that's something that Kha'Zix could potentially try and use in his favor here. The Rakan here going to be actually picked up by Luminous Charm. So interesting. This is a very original draft coming out from both sides. I'm really enjoying what's coming on through, a little bit out of the ordinary. But the Rakan, also, what are they going to play it with this one? Xayah is open, and Xayah Rakan in the current landscape of the game is one of the strongest matchups to currently go for, but they closed off with a Darius. Question mark, question mark, question mark. I don't know what to expect from this one.
I just want to jump back quickly. You said you're down on the Kha'Zix. Well, if there's anything I've learned from the PC version of League of Legends, you're bringing Ashe and Lulu into the lane. Lulu is basically the no fun allowed Kha'Zix farm. Wild growth, polymorph, like there's even more options to just mess this jungler up.
Is this Ziggs AD carry or
I think so.
This is Ziggs AD carry. So this is Ziggs Rakan bot lane.
And Gragas mid. Yeah.
Gragas mid. It's Lulu mid, by the way. Lulu mid with Braum bot lane. Braum Ashe is a very strong lane. This is a wild draft, actually. I'm very excited to see how this one plays out.
Oh, I'm hyped up. A little bit out of the ordinary in the current meta of the game, so I'm intrigued to see how this one's going to be coming on through. And because it's out there, I don't know which team to call as potentially a favorite coming into this. So yeah, I'm hyped to get into the Rift for this.
All right, then I'm going to let you guys keep moving along then. I'm going to disappear, sub out, and I will be back after the match.
Thank you very much, Trid. We're back for our third and final game of this series between Luminous Charm and now Reason Gaming. We said it, and I'm going to say it once again. Whichever team loses this match, they're gone. And which is surprising, right, Scoundrel? This is the last chance for these two teams, and they go for some of the wackiest, I'm not going to say wackiest, but out of the ordinary drafts that we've seen in a long while. It's weird to have this as like your last resort play you're going for to make sure you make it through to the next stage.
Well, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the individual matchups when we get into game, but Ziggs AD carry is something that isn't out of the ordinary, especially in competitive. We do see it quite a lot, but Ziggs Rakan is not really a lane that I've seen played together. Usually you'll see Ziggs paired up with like another poke enchanter type support like Ziggs Lux or Ziggs Sona sometimes, Ziggs Seraphine. Never really seen Ziggs Rakan, but Rakan does offer you a lot of team fight presence, right? Rakan is a very strong team fighting champion. Darius into Garen, terrible matchup for Darius. Like, you actually cannot win this matchup. As long as Garen doesn't run it down and allow you to get 5 stacks really quickly, then it's a really tough matchup for Darius to win out in.
Yeah.
It's an interesting set of picks, honestly. Very interesting set of picks.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see what's going to be the game plan, especially around it, because you talked about these drafts being pretty interesting. How are you going to play the Ziggs Rakan? Are you going to play this one pretty passive, which I'm expecting because you're dealing with Braum, and you don't really want to try and face up against that Braum too much, and I think it might be a little slower one.
It might be rough level 1, but beyond level 1, like level 2, you'd be able to push the lane. Like, the thing about Ziggs is not about, you're not looking to fight, right? Ziggs is not looking to fight this lane. He just wants to push the wave. So you like, whenever you pick Ziggs in the bot lane, it's not about fighting. It's about just pushing the wave. So you get natural priority in that lane. So you just shove wave, shove wave, shove wave. If you can get any hits on tower, that's fantastic. But you just shove wave, shove wave, shove wave, shove wave. But look, we're jumping into our third game, Max.
Yeah, there we go. We've got the Braum. He's T-posing into this one. He's going to be moving forward. And as a 4-man stack, we'll see if they can try and get himself an early kill. I think that this time, Luminous Charm are going to be wiser by the time this game happens, and they're not going to face. Don't do it again, please. Okay, Ward, thank you. I appreciate it. No sushi this time around in the early game, even though he's not playing Nami. They're not going to be encountered whatsoever. So here we go. Once again, final chance for these two teams of Luminous Charm and Reason Gaming to make it to the next stage of the lower bracket. If they take the L, well, unfortunately, they'll take the L home. As this, I mean, they're playing from home, but they'll go to their room, I guess. I don't know, man. You take that whatever you want, but last chance for these two teams, regardless.
And honestly, this is where the risk of the Kazakhs comes in. It's Lulu versus Gragas mid. Lulu got to be a little careful in that matchup. It is a matchup that you can sustain pretty easily in as the Gragas, and you have a lot of hard engage potential, which is difficult for the Lulu to deal with. This is very much like a kind of like a buff the Ashe, protect the Ashe style comp. Like you have 2 supports for the Ashe, which is going to give you a lot of good late game scaling options. So you have a lot of scaling potential in team fights here. You have a lot of hard engage, which is good to deal with the Ziggs. And you've got a relatively solid front line with the Garen. If you heard Clamares in the interview talking about it, it's like one of the best tanks in the game right now. So you have a really solid front line with good engage here to deal with the Ziggs. And I think the real problem child of the comp that you're going to deal with right now is that Ziggs in the AD carry position. If you can deal with the Ziggs, I don't think you're going to have much of a problem here with Reason, because you have such a grouped up solid team fight. You have 2 supports that are going to absolutely make Kazakhs' life a living hell in skirmishes and team fight situations. So yeah, I think overall you're in a good spot compositionally here for Reason Gaming. It's just obviously the laning phase and potential snowball opportunities are still there, and looks like Sanji with the level advantage is maybe looking to go for a double scuttle opportunity, and Braum having to rotate out of the lane very early on here to provide a little bit of help as we have an engage.
They go on the front line with the Unbreakable. Procs the passive, actually, and the body slam away. We'll get some extra CC on the likes of with Ice, and the barrel will do some pretty decent work, but they're going to scout away that position. With Ice, nice attempt. I like the rotation coming on through, but unfortunately, it's not going to be enough, and the Scuttle will still be secured away by Luminous Charm. So as you said, double Scuttle control coming their way. A little bit harder for Reason to roam freely around the map.
Yeah, the problem is you didn't really have much priority bot lane, so obviously Ashe couldn't rotate out for the the drawback of losing minions and losing experience and gold here. And so once you made that initial roam with Braum and it didn't work out, you weren't able to secure the scuttle there, then it was very easy for Did You Miss Me to rotate out with the Rakan and have the impact following. So yeah, double scuttle start on for Sanji on the Kazakhs, a really good start. Has a level advantage right now, and I expect him to try and use that before the Drake fight opens up. It is Infernal Drake, to try and get some kind of edge in a lane, because I think if you go straight into a 5v5 right now, or straight into a full-out brawl, even with this advantage that you've managed to get in the early game, you're still a Kazakhs in a team fight situation versus a double kind of protective support, which is going to result in you, I think, struggling to have the impact that you maybe want in that early dragon fight.
Yeah, and the current meta and competitive, at least in Europe, is very team fight focused, so Kazakhs by default is not going to be great in the landscape of the game because of that current meta shift, but we'll see if later on the meta might adapt a little bit more to a Kazakhs in competitive, which as of right now is not truly the case. Top side though, I'm going to be intrigued, and I think that Sensho could be a hidden gem for the team of Luminous Charm. I think as a composition up against, he might struggle a fair decent bit, especially the likes of that Braum. There's a lot of champions with quite a bit of mobility. I'm thinking back to that Camille especially, there might be a little bit of an issue. Sensho, it's got to be very careful. If he falls behind, Darius tends to struggle, but one strong fight, and I've seen it many times, one good reset on that Noxian Guillotine, and you are set for life. So you got to keep an eye out for him. Darius is a very scary champion, given the right prospect, and if they put him far behind, which I'm hoping is going to be happening for Kapana, then that is going to be one major threat taken down very early on. But there you go. Infernal Drake, as you said, Scandal is now going to be on the Rift, and right away, the entirety, well, not the entirety, most of the players, should I say, of Luminous Charm are going to be in that position. The response of Reason is very slow. Satchel Charge going to move away with Ice, and he's already pretty damn low. And he's the jungle in this one. If he wants to go, he might just die instantly. Tried to steal away, secured actually by the Kardix. Sanji smites it down just in time. He gets some CC thanks to the quickness. A nice re-engage coming out actually from Did You Miss Me. The health bars are now not looking too good, and they get reverse engaged by Reason Gaming. 4 players still up and ready to go and ready to rumble as Reason pick themselves up. 3 kills, but no dragon this time.
Yeah, it was a really late reaction to the dragon fight, but you did just see in action how bad Kazakhs is versus this kind of team comp. Like, he just didn't do anything. They're going to pick off the Darius here as well. Did You Miss Me might drop. I mean, the Ashe Braum is such a good combo as well. Double support for Ashe makes it even harder for the Luminous team to actually get in and deal with the biggest threat, because Ashe is really the biggest damage threat in this comp, especially for consistent DPS output in these team fights. And you give that double support edge to her. Jash as well, who I think is the main carry from Reason, like is the person that's going to step up and do the majority of the work for this team. They've really set Jash up for success this game, and Jash is kind of slam dunking the ball when it's handed to him.
Yeah, and I've seen a few times actually in the last few community tournaments in Europe. I think I've seen so far 3 pentakills on Ashe. Going to show that she is a champion in Europe. There is been played a bit as of recently, but at this level of play, especially in the Origin series, you might see that as a risk. It's been working amazingly well for Jash. I still want to see Tristana. Hopefully we'll see that happen throughout the next 3 days of this June session. And we're going to have a quick replay then back onto that fight. I liked it, and you can see the quickness from Did You Miss Me, I think was great at the end, but then get a little bit too far, especially with Sanji. And then the re-engage is just clinical from Reason. And the slows coming out from Jas are just too damn powerful. You can't make it out of the grasp of Reason Gaming. And then they put the focus on Sensho and got himself all of those 3 kills at the end. So yeah, really, Jash is not only playing that damage dealer kind of role with the Ashe, but also the utility kind of position, able to set up the rest of his team in good ways. That's
what Ashe's role is. Look back, we have a live bit of action here going on. Obviously, Rift Herald is being started up.
Yeah,
but they are slowly rotating over to it, but I don't think they're going to get there in time.
Nah, no way. With Ice going to be able to smite that one down in the nick of time. Sancho not able to join the party just at the very end of that re-engage. So nothing much happening in this point in time. 6 minutes 30 seconds in, 5-1. A current lead is shown the top of its head for Reason Gaming. And not an insane goal lead so far, but in terms of kills and especially that damage output that Reason Gaming has been able to show, showing that when we have a proper 5-on-5 engage, and thanks to that Elder, that could make things a little bit easier, but that's the flash into the Hectic Ultimatum into the top side. Sensho is going to get smited on down by that Demacian Justice, and that is going to be looking golden once again. And they instantly use the Herald pretty early, but the next Drake is Ocean, so hey, that's a tower.
I mean, like, I don't mind, if you're going to use it to convert into something. I mean, the problem is that they can't really push it much further than this, but they may be able to use that pressure that you've had by drawing both the Rakan and the Kha'Zix to the top side of the map. You can see Lulu rotating bot. May be able to use this to get 2 towers. So that's natural pressure created top lane that I actually really like the way that Reason have played this. They've basically said, cool, fair enough, we weren't using it to get the first tower of the game, but we are going to use it to translate into a bottom tier 1, which we are able to do. Essentially, what you're essentially looking at is here that Rift Herald's taken 2 towers instead of 1. It may not have been a direct take of Rift Herald taking 2 towers, but the pressure that you drew by having Rift Herald drop with a kill on top side of the map meant that you were able to commit resources to that bottom lane tier 1. So it was essentially 2 tower takes for the price of 1.
Exactly what I was going to say. Looking like a pretty fancy deal that Reason Gaming were able to strike themselves. The Drake about to respawn instead is going to be Ocean. If you don't get it, it's fine. But at this point in time, you already got every single tower almost into, every single first tower in both side lanes. So you can very easily put the focus on that, and you should be completely fine. Scuttle respawns. Sanji's going to try and get it. You better be careful, though. You get slowed by the sweep from with Ice. That's going to be a hard one to secure. Who got it? I have no idea, but they're going to get some extra CC. Body Slam does not quite come on through. Knockup is actually going to be nice. The quickness onto the backline is helping a lot the position of Luminous Charm, but now you've got to be careful because the Braum passive has been stacked on so many targets, and all Jash has to do is spam that basic attack button, and he's just going to be set for life. Another time he gets himself to CC, and this is why Braum is so good. I would almost say like OP tier in his current meta, like every basic
Braum's
attack,
the best support in the meta,
and you're good.
Like Braum and Janna, I think the 2 best supports in the meta, and you can see why Braum is like so strong.
I'll be careful there. The wave is dead, but you know what? They're still pretty beefy boys, so they get himself an extra kill. Need to get the wave, and that first tower should fall very soon. And they even got himself the dragon being secured solo by with Ice.
I mean, honestly, we might get to look back at that fight, but there was one crucial area that essentially ruined the team fight for Luminous. The Rakan engaged, and he engaged past the Braum, and Braum just put his shield up. And then what are you going to do? Like, your Rakan's on the other side of the Braum. You can't get through the Braum shield because it's just tanking so much damage, and everybody else is completely free. You Hextech Ultimatum the Kha'Zix. Kha'Zix is giga useless in team fights, like absolutely turbo useless in team fights. I can't stress this enough. And then he just gets Demacian Justice, the big old sword from Tools for the Sky, the press ultimate for skill button, as I like to call it, from Garen, comes through and just takes out the Kha'Zix way too easily. And then, as you said, you're able to recapitalize, get back on and support Jash, who's then from the back line with a double support, protecting him, able to just completely take over the team fight.
Yeah, especially keep up, able to proc his passive on so many targets is really valuable. Then the entire team, of course, they see that big glaring kind of icon on the minimap. They're like, okay, very easy. We'll just basic attack them. And that is going to be not only some CC, but some extra burst damage on those basic attacks once the passive is procced. Baron is now going to be up, and I think that is going to be the game to seal the fate of Luminous Charm. Reason Gaming get himself potentially a new fight, or even if they just want to threaten it to force the fight to come their way, they're currently in the lead. Why not? I don't think there's a significant enough lead for them to try and play around that Baron buff just yet. So you want to get a very clear advantage in a fight, get himself a kill or two, or just put a bunch of health bars extremely low. Then maybe you want to try and play around that Baron pit, as they're going to send actually Kapana into the bottom side. So it seems like they want to try and once again create the opportunity for some of their team down there. I'm not sure if he's got a teleport just now. It would be great to see the items, but if he has that TP, then I'm completely down for that, as he can instantly join up with the rest of his team.
I mean, I think at this point, like, where is the windows for Luminous? Like, what windows are you looking for? I think the only thing that I think you, I mean, again, it's just Lulu, the ultimate anti-fun champion for assassins. I think the only window that you've got is getting Ziggs to late game, right? Like, other than that, I don't really see how you come out on top in 5v5s.
Well,
but
bottom side, though, that was a pretty big fight coming on through, actually. You said it, the Master Injustice just won, and that's going to be Sanji dead. And that's exactly what happened. It was a 1v2, and Kapana wins it. So it seemed like what you're mentioning here about the giga garbage kind of Kha'Zix is coming to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, if Kha'Zix doesn't snowball, he's kind of useless. So that's the problem that I have within competitive. Versus good teams, you're never likely going to snowball, right? Best you're going to do is like even. But look, at the end of the day, like you have to try and look for windows for Luminous. I think the windows that you've got is potentially looking for a big combo team fight. But look, the problem is that you make one mistake and Ash is going to punish you for it. You make one mistake, you get locked up with the Brawn passive, and Ash is just there slapping you with arrows. It's so difficult to really find an edge if you're Luminous at this point. I think Reason are very comfortably in the driving seat at this point in time.
Very clearly. There's not much you can really do. Jash Day even just popped his arrow, tried to pop the ulti, and he didn't get the kill, but you know what? Just going to get back by the time of the next fight, hopefully at least. Kapana really more in that split pushing kind of situation now, trying to create a point of pressure, forcing Luminous Charm to try and take care of that side lane, to go back every once in a while, to maybe allow the likes of Reason to get more priority in the mid lane position. They wanted to try and get himself the mid lane tower, not able to get it just yet. But in my eyes, Scoundrel, the moment that mid lane tower falls for Luminous Charm, that is when Reason Gaming is looking to get even more control around the map, get even deeper vision, and make sure that Luminous Charm cannot contest any jungle objective. It might be a dragon, it might be a baron. It will be really hard for Luminous Charm to make it work. And with their composition, I just can't see it happen at this point in time.
When you're commentating games, you do always like to try and make sure you're not kind of like saying, well, it's over, right? You're trying to say there's a ray of hope. Yeah. There's a silver ray of hope somewhere in this game where they might be able to find a way back in, but it's looking less and less likely. And you can even see now that we're opening up into a 1-3-1, like they're utilizing Garen's side lane split push pressure. This is like a ridiculously fed Garen. Withice is doing the same, although Withice has kind of overstepped the mark here.
Got themselves the TP off Kapana, going to try and get himself involved. Unfortunately, they do lose themselves with ice, but they don't really need him for the fight. Great explosive cast, actually able to move them away. But now it's just the damage is a little bit too high for Luminous Charm, as they actually pick themselves a really good engage. Seemed like that overstep from with ice is definitely what they needed. The arrow! He snipes it down. The European sniper of Jash makes it work out. Re-engage into the grand entrance, a little bit too low, so he will lose his life almost instantaneously as he goes for the initiation. But Luminous Charm, they get himself a bunch of frags, but it's just clearly not going to be enough as Reason Gaming take it back from the brink of death. There you go, now going to be pushing into the mid lane position. That's going to be Reason, Jash, Michele, and also Kapana on the board. First tower coming their way, and they're going to look for the second. They're going to get the inhib off of this one very clearly, Scoundrel.
Yeah, they've got 1 second until the Ziggs is up, though, so I think that unfortunately is going to mean they're not going to pick up the inhibitor turret, because the Ziggs wave clear is just, even at this stage of the game, when you're behind, still too strong. I mean, Ziggs is sitting on a Ludens and a Ravenous Deathcap. He's gone for the Void Crystal as well to give him a little bit of Magic Pen. However, please, Ziggs, don't finish the Void Staff. Get a Void Amethyst, sorry, Void Crystal. It's the same thing. Please give us Stasis. I don't want to see you finish this Void Staff. I want you to get Stasis. You need the Stasis. If you don't get the Stasis, you die. So I think I'd like to see him finish the Stasis, and obviously Flash being off cooldown for the next 40 seconds with Baron being up is a little bit difficult for Ziggs to play. But you know, there is windows. I mean, we're 13k behind right now as Luminous. That is a significant gold advantage to have to try and come back from. However, as we've said, we've seen crazier things happen, and if you take out the Ashe, you do kind of neuter this composition a little bit. Yeah. So if Jash does die, then there is hope for Luminous in these fights.
Yeah, very clearly. The main issue I'm having here, especially for Luminous Charm, is the fact is Kapana has very easy access to the backline. And Lewin, you said it right. We want to see him get that stasis. Otherwise, Luminous can't just come back from this game willy-nilly, as now the fight, Sanji going to try and jump on forward onto Michaela. The Dragon secure, the Gumstuff, the Cloud Drake, extra zoom speed coming their way, and now they're going to close that gap. They're looking for the engage. Get himself a decent smite at the end with the Nox and Guillotine, but he's not able to get himself the second reset, and that is going to be himself losing his life first for the side of Luminous Charm, and now it's a big push for the Baron.
Yeah, you've lost the Braum though, so the Braum is one of those key team fight tools that allows you to individually stun up those targets so easily with the Ashe. Sanji just a little aggressive for his own blue buff, and With Ice is having none of it with that Sterex popping and just gets it.
Yeah, Cabana going to move away too. Seemed like that blue buff was a little bit of a greedy attempt overall from Sanji. Will be losing his life at the very end. Though, still, they're trying to get himself a little bit of vision control, and I think that if they got a little bit more, Reason Gaming would have went for the Baron, but they're not going to get too overzealous in that attempt whatsoever. They're going to go back to base. They got themselves a lot of gold from that whatsoever, so they can just get back, try and convert that gold into some extra itemizations, and be fully prepared for the next engage. They're just about to rear its ugly head in the very, very near future.
A Baron will be a game ender because you have such a strong siege comp. Like, you just walk up the towers with Ashe, Braum, and Lulu. Like, who's going to stop you? And especially because we know that the Baron is a really good way of dealing with Ziggs. Like, he can't wave clear versus Baron means. Are they even going to get here in time? I don't even think they're going to get here in time.
There's nothing he can do. Maybe able to close himself the gap, try and get himself a volley from Jash and apply that slow. Unfortunately, not able to make it happen just yet. Big push through mid, and there you go. They're going to strand once again Kapana towards the bottom side of the map, towards the Dragon Lane, and maybe try and get himself 2 inhib towers. If they get 2 inhib towers, most of the time, that's resulting in a win. Sanji trying to jump on over. Luckily enough, thanks to this hit, he can make it over those walls without any issue. But you can see Ziggs is struggling pretty heavily to clear those minions, those empowered minions with the Baron buff, and that might be the downfall of Luminous Charm, not only in this series, but they're out if they lose this game, so they need to pull in one of the most insane comebacks versus Reason Gaming, but it just doesn't seem possible at this stage almost. There's a chance, as you said earlier, when you're commentating, you want to always think there's an opportunity, but it seems clearly out of the grasp of Luminous right now.
Yeah, and also what I really like from Reason right now is that, yeah, okay, Ziggs is doing his best to clear these waves, but look, they're 1-3-1ing it. They're just making the best use of Baron in every single lane. Like, just sit around these cannons and you're going to get the bot lane tier 1, sorry, the bot lane inhibitor down. Looks like they're trying to take out With Ice, but I think With Ice can literally just 1v1 this, and he has GA.
Yeah, he avoided a burst actually with a really good use of his ultimate on the Hectic Ultimatum. The volley of Jash is just too much damage apparently, even though you're supposed to use him more as a utility. The damage is just too high right now. And now every single inhib tower has fallen down. They got himself the empowered minions, the buff minions from the Nexus will be coming out very shortly, and now they just moved away, trying their best to get himself a few more kills, maybe secure the ace before they take down the Nexus, and that is going to be set, game, and match as Reason Gaming secure himself their second game in the series, and will be sending Luminous Charm back home out of the Origin series already.
Yeah, and they'll be going against Cream Real Betis in the next round of the losers bracket, but a really good resurgence from them. I actually, from seeing them play, I don't know how they lost the first game because they were so dominant both games here. And I think they played a really, really nice play around the first Dragon, and they clearly knew how to deal with the Ziggs in this particular composition. Very, very clean stuff from Reason Gaming in both of these games. And I think as well, really understood how to sort of pressure the map out. And I love the 1-3-1 with the Baron to kind of make it very difficult for Ziggs to protect his base and stall out. Great stuff.
Yeah, amazing. Still really good attempt coming out from Luminous Charm. Hopefully we'll see them back in the future. We got 3 qualifiers and 3 stages happening back to back to back every single month. So I'm hoping to see Luminous Charm back on the Rift once again. But with that said, myself and Scoundrel, we're going to go back to a very short break, and we'll be back shortly for our third and final series of the day.